Mikhail Gorbachev is in North America tonight, but he's thinking a lot about this man, Boris Yeltsin, back home in Moscow.
From the summit in Washington, NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening from Washington, where the capital tonight is awash in rainy weather and high hopes for sunny skies by the time that Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev arrives here tomorrow evening. Tonight he's in Canada, his first stop on a 6-day North American tour. And while he has a full agenda here, he has what appears to be a new challenge at home. Gorbachev's Canadian stop is designed to set the stage for his talks with President Bush beginning Thursday. The Soviet leader met Canada's Prime Minister Brian Mulroney today. They discussed the new political alignment in Europe and Moscow's urgent need for more trade with the West. Gorbachev, of course, remains a popular, charismatic figure in the West, but his standing at home may be at its lowest point since he assumed power, mostly because the Soviet economy is a mess. And NBC's Bob Abernathy in Ottawa with Gorbachev tonight tells us the Soviet president now has even more to worry about. Bob?
Gorbachev was upstaged as he traveled by the election in Moscow of his populist rival and critic Boris Yeltsin, now president of the Russian Federation, representing half of all the Soviet people. Even though Yeltsin won by just 4 votes after 3 hard-fought ballots, his supporters were euphoric. Yeltsin told them he would spare nothing to try to lead Russia to better times. Yeltsin had been attacked personally by Gorbachev, who accused him of wanting to go too far toward a market economy and of wanting too much Russian independence from central government control. But Soviet spokesman today said Yeltsin's election might strengthen the economic reform movement and thereby help Gorbachev. Here in Ottawa, meeting Canada's leaders, Gorbachev did not congratulate Yeltsin. Rather, he said he's somewhat worried because Yeltsin's election was so close, such a confrontation. He said he hopes Yeltsin's talk of cooperation with Gorbachev is not insincere.
If it is a political game, then we are in for difficult times. It won't be easy.
Outside the Soviet embassy, the first of thousands of demonstrators expected here and in the United States to protest Gorbachev's opposition to independence for the Baltic republics. The prime ministers of Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, worried about being sold out at the Gorbachev-Bush summit, today said Gorbachev has no legal authority to represent them. In Moscow, where the consumer economy remains in crisis, Prime Minister Ryzhkov defended his government's plan to raise subsidized prices. The Supreme Soviet rejected overwhelmingly a proposal for a vote of no confidence. Meanwhile, in Armenia, the funeral today of one of the 2 Soviets killed in last weekend's clash between Armenians and Soviet troops. A mass funeral for most of the 25 Armenians killed is planned tomorrow. Gorbachev will be briefing his hosts here and President Bush in Washington on his many troubles at home. And he freely acknowledges they are many. Gorbachev seems philosophical. Speaking today of the election of Boris Yeltsin, Gorbachev observed, life is richer than any teacher. Tom?
Thank you, Bob Abernathy in Canada tonight. And a senior member of the Soviet delegation, one of the Kremlin's brightest young men, is Vitaly Churkin. He's the advisor to Foreign Minister Edward Shevardnadze, and Mr. Churkin will be with us all week long. Mr. Churkin, as you know, on these occasions in the past, the United States and the Soviet Union have talked primarily about arms control, reducing those big nuclear weapons. But this time, I assume, from the Soviet point of view, it will be equally important to reach some kind of a trade agreement and a new arrangement for politics in Europe. Is that true?
That's true, and probably the broad political aspects are going to be most important subjects of the conversations between the 2 presidents. The standing of our 2 countries in the changing world, changing Europe, as you pointed out correctly, and the way we're going about building our relationship from now on, from the rather high plateau which we have already reached.
Let's talk for just a moment about trade. You probably will get a trade agreement, but it will not be as good as the one that the president is prepared to give China. Does that surprise you?
We are prepared to have a summit without a trade agreement, though I think that it would be very important to have one if the American side is prepared for it. I think that the reference to immigration is no longer really valid because there are no restrictions, in fact, to immigration from the Soviet Union. Over 200,000 people immigrated last year. They are speaking about the law, and we also think that it would be important for us to have that law, but the Supreme Soviet is simply doing other things. So basically the reference to law is a technicality now.
One of the president's senior advisors said today it is inevitable that you'll have to talk about Lithuania, even though President Gorbachev has said he is not prepared to discuss that subject here. Don't you think it is inevitable, given the politics?
They are certainly going to talk about it, but of course that does not change our attitude to it as being our domestic issue. But we understand why Americans are interested in this subject, and I'm sure that President Gorbachev is going to reiterate our intention to settle that issue through dialogue with the Lithuanians.
Are you nervous about Boris Yeltsin being at home while the president's here?
Not at all. I think that actually it might help Mr. Gorbachev to have Yeltsin chairman of the Supreme Soviet of the Russian Federation. They both want the same thing. They want reform, they want market economy. Some people in the Soviet Union, especially the lower income segment of our society, are worried about that. And if Mr. Yeltsin's populist appeal to them will help the reforms go forward, it will be very helpful, I think.
Vitaly Churkin, thank you very much for being here. We'll see you all week long right here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The way the State Department said today that an agreement to greatly expand Soviet-American air travel will be signed at the summit meeting. Currently, only New York and Washington have air service to the Soviet Union. Now Chicago, Miami, San Francisco, and Anchorage, Alaska will get it as well. In the Soviet Union, U.S.-based flights now limited to Moscow and Leningrad will be expanded to 6 other cities. A total of 7 U.S. airlines will now fly to the Soviet Union. Also coming up here tonight on NBC Nightly News, the Supreme Court agrees to decide a major abortion question, federal money and abortion counseling. Also tonight, a Soviet dancer and an American theater technician show us how the world is changing for the U.S. and Moscow. As the Iron Curtain is lifted, there's a new common stage for the two cultures.
This is a new Passat, Volkswagen's first ever mid-size family sedan. It has air conditioning, tilt steering, and more passenger room than any Volvo. 4-wheel disc brakes, and a more powerful engine than a Honda Accord. All standard, and all for only $14,770. And this is a family of 5 who are about to enjoy the driving experience we call Farfignugan.
Traditional Oriental wisdom says one must live well, eat well, which may explain why for generations their diet has included brown rice, including the bran. Kellogg's now brings this ancient yet new idea to the American breakfast in Kenmai Rice Bran. Here's brown rice with all its nutritious bran in crisp, delicious flakes. Kenmai Rice Bran from Kellogg's, born in the tradition of lifelong health. Live well, eat well.
Here in Washington, the U.S. Supreme Court agreed today to take on another volatile question of abortion rights. This case involves restrictions imposed on family planning agencies by the Reagan and Bush administrations. We have more tonight from NBC law correspondent Carl Stern.
The court agreed to decide next term whether the government may bar the nation's 4,000 federally funded family planning clinics from telling poor women about their right to abortion. A suit was filed by this Planned Parenthood clinic in New York's South Bronx.
We have women who come in who are in a pregnancy crisis. They have the right to all the information that's available to them.
Other suits were filed in Boston and Denver, and courts have split on whether the ban is constitutional. So far, the clinics have successfully resisted what they call a gag rule.
I'd have to stop after mentioning pregnancy, going to term, adoption, foster care, and it would gag me in the other area.
What the regulations specifically tell the physician to say if a woman says, well, I'm interested in abortion, it says that the doctor must reply, we cannot give you information about that. We can only send you for prenatal care.
For a live birth.
Correct.
The clinics in low-income neighborhoods receive about $200 million a year in federal help. Anti-abortion groups want the payments stopped if tax money is going to be used for abortion counseling.
You can look at it as picking on poor women only if you think it's a wonderful thing for poor women to abort their children. We would look at it in the sense that poor women keeping their children is a very good thing for poor women and for all women, and that there's nothing unfair about that.
In the next few weeks, the court may decide another matter, whether teenagers have to tell their parents when they want an abortion. But as in today's case, the court does not seem to be questioning whether a right to abortion exists, only how broad or narrow it may be. Carl Stern, NBC News at the Supreme Court.
Then there is this problem faced by many mothers and mothers-to-be in this country. The federal government now is cutting back on food allotments for poor women and children because it's running out of money. NBC's Robert Hager has that story tonight.
In Fort Worth, Texas, low-income mother Susanna Eldridge will get less cereal and juice than in the past. Near Los Angeles, Christina Roscoe will receive only half as much orange juice as she gets now. The federal food program for low-income women, infants, and children, called the WIC program, is in trouble. Normally, 4.5 million low-income women who are pregnant or have new babies get monthly vouchers for some basic foods of high nutritional value, important to combat the very high rate of infant mortality in the U.S. But while Congress allowed for an increase of 4.5% in food prices this year, in reality, the increase has been from 8% to, in some cases, 20%. The cost of orange juice, milk, and cereals all up more than expected. The chairman of the House Committee on Hunger, Tony Hall, calls this a crisis, estimates the WIC program could be $67 million short this year and could be forced to cut off benefits to 52,000 of the eligible women and infants. Betsy Clark, who directs WIC in Oregon, objects.
I think as a country we have enough wealth to be able to supply a few basic foods for women, infants, and children.
Some states are already cutting out cheese for all recipients. Cheese is an important source of calcium. Some other states are cutting back on orange juice, a source of vitamin C, or peanut butter, a source of protein. In Fort Worth, victim of the cuts, Susanna Eldridge is worried.
If they were to cut, I'd have to sacrifice a lot of things that I get, and then get things that are definitely needed so that my kids could eat.
But cuts now seem inevitable in at least half the 50 states. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
Another space shuttle astronomy mission, already 4 years behind schedule, was delayed again this evening. The shuttle Columbia was being filled with fuel for the mission when technicians noticed a leak. It could take several days to fix it. The mission involves using a space observatory to examine ultraviolet light and X-rays given off by distant galaxies. Officials at the U.S. Naval Academy at Annapolis announced changes today designed to stop hazing and sexual harassment. One female midshipman resigned last month after complaining that male classmates were not punished for handcuffing her to a urinal and laughing at her. Under the new rules, any upperclassman found guilty of abusing a classmate, male or female, can be expelled. On Wall Street today, a big rebound. The Dow Industrial soared to another record high, the 7th in the past 11 trading days.
Good thing he's got a real job at Dow. He's a plastics recycling engineer, which sounds fancy, but it's real simple. See, Dow figures out ways to recycle plastics like this and turn it into neat stuff like those picnic tables and Brad's bat and ball. My dad may be a lousy ball player, but he's a great guy. I'm real proud of you, Dad.
Proud of me?
Dow lets you do great things.
Every day, millions of people do something strange. They wash their dishes before they wash their dishes. Introducing the new Maytag Jet Clean dishwasher that scrubs with 47 powerful jets from the top, bottom, and sides, filters, and disposes. It's one dishwasher designed to do the dishes with little help from you.
Or me.
The new Jet Clean dishwasher from Maytag, the dependability people.
You've never seen a shaver like this before. It's the 3M Surgical Clipper by Remington. Hospitals are now using it, and you can benefit from this advanced technology at home. The Remington microscreen shaves as close as a blade, or your money back.
Years ago, I really hurt my ankle. My doctor recommended a pain reliever and prescription Motrin. Now he recommends Motrin IB for pain.
Motrin IB, no prescription needed.
And it makes my headaches stop.
Motrin IB, doctor-recommended pain relief.
Now that the Cold War has ended, there's a fascinating paper trail into the world of communist espionage. Many of those trails lead to East Germany and revelations about what American secrets were known to that country. NBC's Mike Betcher has more on all of this intrigue tonight.
With the fall of communism and the freedom of movement between East and West, there has been a flood of information about spies, past and present. Secret American intelligence documents in the possession of the East German intelligence agency known as the Stasi were recently smuggled to the West. They show how successfully the communist spy network had compromised American secrets. Among the documents, a proposed American plan of attack on the Soviet command structure in the event of war. The operation, titled Canopy Wing, also describes how the communications of advancing Warsaw Pact forces could be disrupted by exploding a nuclear bomb in the upper atmosphere.
The fact that these documents fall into enemy hands could seriously interfere with the effectiveness of the operation.
The Stasi also had documents detailing U.S. electronic intelligence capabilities and plans, along with the location of secret American listening posts. East German penetration of American security agencies extended directly inside the European headquarters of all U.S. forces in Europe. The Stasi files contain the minutes of a quarterly meeting of American intelligence officials inside the headquarters. An editor for the West German magazine Quick, which first obtained the smuggled documents, said American officials asked for copies.
We passed this over via some contacts in the U.S. Embassy in Bonn, and we know that this material is right now in the hands of U.S. intelligence specialists.
However, the files may tell them something they already knew. Last year, Warrant Officer James Hall, an intelligence specialist, pleaded guilty to selling U.S. secrets to East Germany. It is likely this material was sold by him. West German authorities have been stunned by new revelations of the scope of Stasi operations. And this week, West Germany's chief spy prosecutor warned that improved relations between the two superpowers will not end the threat of espionage. Mike Betcher, NBC News, Frankfurt.
This was homecoming day for one of the former American hostages, Frank Reed. Reed was given a parade in Malden, Massachusetts. It was an official welcome back to the suburb just north of Boston. Since his release, Reed said that he has gained almost 20 pounds. And he asked that the people of Malden not forget the hostages still being held in the Middle East. In another part of the world, South Africa's President de Klerk said today that he has now postponed a trip to the United States in a meeting with President Bush. That meeting had reportedly been scheduled just before Bush's meeting with Nelson Mandela next month, and members of Congress signaled that de Klerk's reception would be warmer if he waited until after Mandela came here. Mandela today was recovering from minor surgery performed at a hospital just outside of Johannesburg. The clinic would not say what the operation involved, only that it was nothing serious.
Did you know if you're not using AT&T,
get me Grogan's order now.
It could take as long as this to connect a long-distance call.
Mr. Grogan's office.
Is he there?
You just missed him.
Other long-distance companies can waste your time, and that can cost you business. Speed, another AT&T advantage.
You know it's time for Anacin when the pain gets so bad you can't think about anything except getting rid of that headache. Sometimes it's so bad I don't feel like putting up with the cat, the kids, or the man I married.
When the pain of a stress headache has you stretched to the limit, Anacin relieves the pain fast.
So I take a couple and pretty soon my headache's going. It's like I can feel the Anacin going right to where I hurt. Anacin gets to the pain before it gets to you.
American Families Get Rich Night is coming up fast. One big winning night when you'll see me announce 7 winning numbers for 7 big prizes. You get 7 chances at this giant prize bonanza from $10,000 on up to $1 million. And $10 million. It's like entering 7 sweepstakes with a single entry. American Family, the only sweepstakes with my picture. It could make you very, very rich. Enter today.
I'm telling you, she sold my house just like that. Dorothy Thompson, Century 21.
They listened to me, so they knew what I wanted.
Century 21? Yeah, my broker sold my house, and I wasn't even in town.
The Century 21 system sells more homes than anybody else because we have more experience than anybody else. But don't take our word for it. Ask a friend.
Come with us. She found us a house that supports
birthday. I'm gonna live here forever.
Century 21.
Today was John F. Kennedy's birthday. How old do you think he would have been? 73. In Boston today, an 8-foot statue of the late president was unveiled at the State House. The statue was hailed by Senator Edward Kennedy as a remarkable symbol of what he said his brother stood for, America on the move. Also at the ceremony were JFK's daughter Caroline and his widow Jacqueline Onassis. In New York tonight with his commentary and some thoughts about what we're about to witness here in Washington and across the country, John Chancellor. John?
Tom? In all the years that the United States has been meeting the Soviet Union at summit conferences, there has never been a Russian leader in as much trouble as Mikhail Gorbachev is today. Even during the years when only America had nuclear weapons, Joseph Stalin still had the biggest army in the world. Nikita Khrushchev blustered and Leonid Brezhnev fell asleep, but both represented a powerful and cohesive Soviet Union. Gorbachev's Soviet Union is seriously ill, suffering from a profound case of cynicism. This is made worse by the fact that everyone who lives there knows that things are going to get much, much worse before they get any better. So why should we deal with Gorbachev? Because there are 287 million people in his country, because the Soviet Union has thousands of nuclear weapons, because its armed forces are still powerful and still in Eastern Europe. And Gorbachev himself still has all the reins of power, more power than anyone in Russia since Stalin. It would be a mistake to treat him only as the leader of a bankrupt system, as we might deal with the head man in Albania. The Soviet Union is too big and too strong militarily for that to be a useful strategy. And the Bush administration, to its credit, understands this. George Bush can sometimes be so careful that he gives prudence a bad name, but in this case he's playing the game the way it should be played. The Soviet Union may be on the ropes, but it cannot be ignored. Which is commentary for this evening, Tom.
Thank you, John. By the way, we have one more sign of the astonishing changes in what used to be known as the Communist Empire. Bulgaria was always one of the darkest, most rigid parts of that empire, and now the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Club Med has made a deal with Bulgaria to open a resort on the Black Sea at what was once a fancy spa for top Bulgarian communists. But then once they opened a McDonald's in Red Square, what was left?
Ford, profiles in quality, continuous improvement.
When your goal is to build the highest quality cars and trucks in the world, you can't stand still.
For the 1990s, we applied new technologies.
New thinking in how we build our cars.
Today, we're building cars so tight, so solid, so precise.
We can compete with anything.
Made anywhere, by anybody.
For the 1990s, the Ford Escort and Mercury Tracer. Quality is job one.
It's Red Lobster's biggest event, Lobster Fest. A dozen lobster dishes, like our lobster and 15 shrimp special. A rock lobster tail, plus sizzling scampi and fried shrimp. All only $10.99, just for Lobster Fest.
Red Lobster for the seafood lover in you.
And a kid shrimp dinner, just $1.99.
A good way to lower your cholesterol is to eat more fiber as part of a low-fat, low-cholesterol diet. And one of the best sources of fiber is prunes. Prunes, the high-fiber fruit.
We baked pearls made of denture material in this blueberry pie to prove how powerfully Efferdent, America's leading denture cleanser, removes this tough stain, even in between. Efferdent, stronger than stains.
Tonight, something a little different. We asked two of our correspondents, Bob Kerr and Rick Davis, to show us what may be the new world of culture if old animosities between Washington and Moscow can be eliminated. And they tell their stories with the help of an American stage designer and a Soviet dancer.
Soviet ballet dancer Alexander Lunev. His moves are bold, and so is what he's done. Lunev has toured the world 3 times, but always as a member of the Kirov Ballet. This month, he was on his own at Boston Ballet's production of Swan Lake. He came alone on a tourist visa and even signed a contract to appear with Boston Ballet next season. unimaginable before Gorbachev.
I decided to not completely change, but to try a new life for a season. To live and work like an American.
And Americans are trying to live and work like Russians. This is the stage of the Moscow Art Theater just last week. Not a place you'd expect to find Yale drama students, but Scott Robertson has wanted to come here for a long time.
It's been my dream since I was 12 years old to come to Moscow.
As Robertson looks forward to helping the Soviets produce a Chekhov play at Yale this fall.
And Soviet dancer Lunyev realizes new freedom to travel and work in Boston. It is, he says, time for dreams.
If a company wants a certain dancer or wants to put on a certain production, they should be able to invite dancers from all countries.
In the past, such greats as Nureyev, Makarova, and Baryshnikov had to defect in order to dance in this country. They lost their Soviet citizenship. Boston Ballet Artistic Director Bruce Marks says it's much different now.
I can go to Russia and say to an artist, oh, I'm very interested in your work. Come and dance with us for 3 months, 6 months, a year. Come and live in Boston. I could never do that before.
And Scott Robertson could never have been involved in a collaboration with this Soviet theater group before.
I'm struck by the fact that theater is like an international language.
We have 10 bottles.
And that bond is reinforced after the theater. This is another kind of international relations once officially frowned upon.
And though he enjoys his time with American friends in Boston, Alexander Lunyev wants to maintain ties with his homeland and dance again with the Kirov. Still, he is realistic. A lot depends on Gorbachev.
Just as the door suddenly swung open and it became possible to come and go freely, on any given day it could just as easily slam shut.
For now, though, it's clear Lunyev thinks Mikhail Gorbachev is someone he can talk to.
Oh, it's Mikhail.
No, it's me. Oh, okay. Sure. Good. Maybe. I don't know. Next week, maybe. Okay, bye.
That's Nightly News for this Tuesday night from Washington. I'm Tom Brokaw, and tomorrow, President Gorbachev, the real person, arrives for what his advisors are calling the most important summit yet. And we'll cover it from the beginning to end. I'll see you tomorrow night.
One cop tracking a killer in paradise.
That creep raped and strangled 12 women.
One cop falling in love with his own partner.
You ought to start thinking with your brain instead of your zipper.
What makes you think he's going to strike again, Mac? Well, it's just a feeling.
One cop who could be the very killer. A world premiere shocker, revealing evidence Sunday.
Tomorrow morning on Today, we'll preview the Bush-Gorbachev summit.
We will tour Universal's new Florida theme park with Steven Spielberg, plus actress Sharon Stone.
That's tomorrow morning on Today.
Just ahead on the scene at 6, a Nashville oil company is accused of intentionally dumping hazardous chemicals. Also, why 2 Metro police officers accused of rape now face departmental charges. And from ID4, the fine line between pornography and art.
These stories and more news coming up next on the scene at 6.
With Eckerd Ultra Lab 35, you get the best 35mm prints, sleeved negatives, a portfolio case, and one great big extra, prints, 30% larger.
Eckerd Ultra Lab 35. Nothing looks better.
I hate it when this happens. Give a little something to someone close to you with the Eckerd Little Picture Pack. For only $3.49, you'll get 12 wall